Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Erik Tomalis with Virtuous. I'm our Chief Evangelist, our Chief Community Officer. I am super excited to sit here and have a conversation with you guys. Thanks for joining us at the Responsive Nonprofit Summit. We're having a fantastic attendance. We love connecting with nonprofit leaders. And I get to talk to you a little bit about something that we're unveiling this year, the responsive maturity model, where we're going to help drive building blocks to increase your generosity. If you don't know me already, please connect with me on LinkedIn. There's a little QR code right here. And one of the things I love talking to nonprofit leaders, if you haven't connected with me in the past, I am a recovering fundraiser. I value the work you guys are doing on a regular basis. I know it's hard, it's arduous. Please connect. And I think that's what I love about the Responsive Nonprofit Summit is we're all coming together, connecting on the chat, connecting our community, sharing our conversations and working collaboratively. But the first thing I want to help you guys out with is this rise and fall of the QR code. I've been fascinated with this thing. Like, this thing has died like 3 times in the last 10 years, and it's on its resurrection and it's coming back. It's like the Phoenix where we are here in Arizona. But this QR code, if you go to your Google Chrome and you go and you right click or double click, you'll see it says, create a QR code. This goes directly to my LinkedIn. It's a good little tip for all of us to be able to go to our online giving pages, our websites, whatever it might be, to connect with nonprofits. But let's jump into it. Let's talk a little bit about where we are with our nonprofit organizations. And, one of the things that, I come from our space, and like I said, I'm a recovering fundraiser, and I know the work we do is hard. And the challenge is it's mainly 2 things that we've identified, right? Like, giving is fundamentally personal. Donors are giving to a nonprofit for a variety of reasons, but they particularly don't understand that personal connection to the cause that's driving their generosity. And as a result, our donors are expecting that more personal connection with them in return. Your donors are already getting thousands of hyper-personalized messages and noise all around the world and in their space, right? Like, I just went to a conference last week, and I learned that there's 500 emails we get on an average basis, on a daily basis. We are scrolling on our phones roughly 2 miles, right? Like, on a daily basis, there's so much noise that's happening around us. And historically, this type of personal connection that we're doing with nonprofits is really reserved for the top of the funnel, right? Our major donors, our key donors, our high net worth individuals. So this idea of doing this mass marketing with generic appeals and email newsletters are really becoming inefficient and outdated, right? I hate using this term, but it's in our industry, is this idea of we're spraying and praying with our donors, right? And I get it, right? The work we're doing is hard. It's easy for us to mass communicate to everybody at one message, and actually just saying, okay, we're going to change the appeal. We're going to update the information. We're going to add 3% to the gift ask array. But the problem is we're just communicating the same message to everybody, right? Like, and if you know and you follow me, I come from our space. I come from the healthcare background. I come from the Boy Scouts, and I worked and I've spent the last 25 years on the road visiting with donors. And we do that work, right? Like, so we're acquiring a brand new list of opportunities. We go to a Rotary, a chamber, whatever it might be, our community, and we put them in that new people into our database and our marketing communication calendar, and we're communicating them the same way. It's year-end fundraising. It's Giving Tuesday, which I also believe is a kind of like a nonprofit and Hunger Games, right? Like, we're all competing against each other. It's our own noise. As well, it's like popcorn season. It's Girl Scout cookie time. It's year-end fundraising. We're talking at our donors instead of with them, right? And you think through, like, Netflix, Amazon, everyone else out there in our space are talking to us, right? They're listening to us. They're having that engaged conversation with us. And unfortunately, after the donors are being acquired, we're just not doing the retention and activation and cultivation tactics that are necessary, right? So this slide is very impactful, and it's impressive, and it's also scary at the same time, because once we get a new donor, we're losing 76% of them on the first time gift. My friend Nathan Hill is going to be speaking tomorrow about donor retention study, and I recommend going to that session and learning how we can have these one-to-one conversations and be able to break the mold of this retention problem that we're having out there. And this impersonal cultivation strategy is going to lead to higher donor attrition rates after that first gift, right? And so that's our main problem. And on the secondary problem that I see is we have silos in our organization, right? How sad is that? Like, right? Like, we don't talk about silos, but we have silos, right? Like, even though we share a wall with our program team, we are not working with them. We're not talking with them, right? And the challenge is we've got fundraising, we've got marketing, we've got our program team. I don't know many people here on our finance team, but I don't like really talking about finance. I keep them over here because we really don't want to work with them as much because they're keeping us honest and on an audit track. But the challenge is really we all have different goals and backgrounds and KPIs and initiatives, right? Like our marketing team is focused in on who's going to the website, who's opening email addresses, like who's clicking on our social media feed. Our fundraising team is focused on the revenue. Revenue drives our business and it funds the program opportunity to solve our problem with our nonprofit organizations. And like I said, finance keeps us balanced in where we are. So that's a really huge struggle that we're having, these walls internally, right? So we need to break down that lack of collaboration idea, break down those silos, work together and dismantle them to be able to create that culture of transparency. And so I'm here with Virtuous, obviously. We want to talk about what that responsive model is for generosity. And since you're here, you're already learning about this responsive donor experience, right? And so responsive fundraising informs our entire technology. It's our methodology. Honestly, like if you followed me and Gabe, I'd see him right here. He's the reason who created this idea of responsive fundraising. And he's the reason why I'm here. I wanted to talk to our leaders and our nonprofit organizations on why it's important. It's a traditional model of fundraising is not effective, and we need to break that framework. It's real simple in that mindset. We want to start with listen up here in that top left corner. We want to listen to who our donors are and what they're interested in. We want to start with that idea of why. What's important to them? Why are they getting engaged? Why are they joining our organization? Why are they coming to our website? We want to connect with them personally. We want to connect with them. We want to meet our donors where they are. If they're interested in text or email or phone or face-to-face, let's connect with them in that personal, automatic touch point in their channel that matters to them. We want to suggest that next step, right? So we as fundraisers, like I said, the work is hard. The stuff that we've done in the past is all about revenue. It's all about asking for money. It's all about moving that needle. It's all about that revenue for that gift, for that next step. But what if we don't ask for that gift the first time? What if we ask them to volunteer? What if we ask them to get involved? What if we ask them to learn more about our organization? Those are the things that we want to suggest in that next step. And the thing that we never do enough of in our space is we never learn from our mistakes, right? Like we do things that's easy. We do things at a mass scale. And just because we did it last year means we're going to do it again this year. What if it didn't work last year? What if we just test and see what works and be able to learn from our mistakes? And that's the overarching idea of this responsive fundraising methodology, which leads into everything we do at Virtuous, as well as nonprofits can do this in all their different spaces, right? So take it another step further, when you take the responsive approach and start creating that donor experience, right? Taking these personal journeys based on a donor's time and their experience and their channel and what's the right message, or right person, right ask. We've all heard this. But let's break it down. So now we have folks coming in from our event, coming in from mail, coming in from peer-to-peer. They have their own individual donor journey, coming in through phone, mail, text, phone call from one of our team members. When you start employing some of these personal dynamic journeys, you're going to see an increased retention, an increased average gift, and more engagement. And honestly, the best part is when you start utilizing tech and opportunity, create efficiencies, is going to decrease our staff time significantly to enable our staff to focus on the revenue that funds our program that makes everybody all happy, right? And so that's the idea of this responsive approach. What if we take it another step further? And this is where we start working collaboratively among our teams, right? So we're talking about our donor experience, but what about our team experience? And so what if we bring in that maturity idea of having marketing and finance and program and fundraising, sharing our insights, sharing our KPIs, sharing our generosity growth, and be able to grow together. And so put in the chat what KPI stands for. If you don't, it's key performance indicator. There's so many acronyms in our space. You're going to hear me talk about, you're going to talk about it throughout the course of the summit. Please, if you can, put those messages in there, call us out on what those acronyms are, but we're going to continue to help you guys on that. So again, the work is hard. It's really hard, right? And it's like you're boiling the ocean, or you're eating an elephant, or whatever it might be. How do we get there, right? And so it was interesting, last week, we were at a leadership meeting here internally at Virtuous, and one of our colleagues said that he wants to focus on 1% growth every day, personally and professionally. And that's how I would tackle this, right? Let's do 1% better today for our organization. What are we going to do? We're going to take a small bite of an elephant and we're going to be able to eat the elephant. We're going to take a small pit of the ocean. We're going to be able to boil it. But that's how we be able to get it. Focus on that 1% that's in front of us and focus on our individual goals. Now, I'm curious, how many folks here know what a maturity model is? Right? Like, it's really a foreign idea in our nonprofit industry. It's actually very active in the for-profit space. And a maturity model actually provides the structured approach to leveling up your organization's performance in a specific area, right? It's going to define a couple stages that your organization can progress as it becomes more responsive. And honestly, maturity models are often used by organizations to benchmark their current level of maturity against industry best practices. You don't need to be able to say, hey, I'm going to be all the way perfect at the first step, move on to the second step or the third step. You just need to know the growth and the pathway to get there. It's going to be that plan that provides results along the way. And a couple of things that we're going to go through to this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, wherever you may be, is to break down the tech, the tactics, and the team required for each one of our steps. So let's break it down. So basically, this is what the maturity model for responsive will look like. We're going to start off with the first pillar, which is all about data health and reporting. We're going to move into the integrated tech and teams. We're going to start segmenting in personas. We're going to start building out those dynamic campaigns. And then we're going to close out here with AI and personalization. But honestly, the foundation of everything we do starts with data health and reporting. And that's where I want to dig deep here right now with us, is start leaning into a little bit of all the different things. Because frankly, being in the space for so long, I believe in this idea is like data drives everything. Data is going to drive our strategy, which provides our creative, which provides our results. And these are some great quotes here. How many folks actually remember Netscape, right? Like Netscape is a great technology, but this is from the former CEO, is if we have data, let's look at the data. If we have all opinions, let's go with mine, right? Like, so as a CEO, as a leader, as an individual, he's deciding he wants the data to drive all the information that their organization is going to be able to move forward with. And if you don't have data, then just listen to the boss, right? And that's not always the best tactic, right? And in God, we trust, all others bring the data, right? From Dr. Deming. So that's the most important and the most foundational piece that we want to be able to do. You know, like, and we want to start with these three key areas. We want to start with confidence in our communication. We want to look over the coverage of our contact information, and we want to have team-wide visibility into those trusted goals and tactics. There's so many statistics out there. CCS Report just did their philanthropy polls last year, and they surveyed nonprofit leaders in our industry, and they asked them, do you trust your data? And over 2/3 said they don't. You know, and I get it, right? Like, how many of us have siloed data points? As a former gift officer, I had my own Excel spreadsheet. Don't tell my DBA, but like, we all have this piece over here. We are bringing in all these other datas. The duplicate issue is a challenge, you know, like, we don't have confidence in just Mr. Salutations as well as a correct name. My name is Erik with a K, but I get Erik with a C all the time, right? And the hardest thing in my own household, I'm the donor in our household. My wife doesn't, she controls the checkbook, she sends mail, and she does all those things. I'm the digital donor. And this past year, I think we donated about 20 to 30 different organizations in our community that we're avid fans of, and what they're doing and their missions. My wife went out on her own, and she donated to one organization a significant gift. And what did that organization do? They sent me a thank you card, and it really burned her. It really upset her because she was the donor in that situation, right? And so we need to do better at having confidence in our communication. We need to look at it. We need to be able to avoid those embarrassing mistakes and be able to allow that team-wide visibility, because we want to be able to move forward with that opportunity to have healthy data to be able to go there. So a couple of things that you're going to need to do and be able to have at your disposal is the tactics and the tech for our team, right? Some of the things that are out there is data health software that's going to help identify, to clean up our duplicate records, get rid of those bad addresses, email, phone, all the different components, right? Like, I love asking folks when I travel, how many people started a new job this past year? And in doing so, you have a new email address, right? So email appends are always going to be changing, and it changes on a regular basis. But on the opposite, How many of us have a cell phone number that we haven't changed in the last 15 years? 95% of folks are opening text messages versus 14% are opening email. We're getting 500 emails a day. Let's start communicating effectively to our people, connect with them in a two-way dialogue rather than on their own, right? Start looking for strong opt-in tracking information, right? Like opt in, say, hey, do you want to learn more about our organization? Is this address correct? I love surveying our donors on a regular basis, saying, hey, what are you interested in? You know, that's the listen component of what we do with responsive. It's very simple. As long as it goes back into the system, you're able to do all those things. And email hygiene. When in doubt, use third-party tools to verify those email addresses. They're out there. There's a whole host of information available today, much more than it was in the past. And then COA, again, another acronym, National Change of Address. I like to recommend organizations doing it at least twice a year. If you're a bigger organization and you're doing larger direct mail and year-end fundraising, whatever it might be, every time you mail, you should be doing an NCOA report. I highly recommend doing it inside your system. You know, Virtuous does it as well as a whole host of others, but you can go in there and just say, hey, I want to do an NCO report with my organization. It cleans, it's data health, it's friendly, and you can have confidence in the fact that the information is correct. So every time someone changes their address, you can be able to update your information. As well, the second area is creating these policies for our data health. Frontline fundraisers, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say this, our technology and our database administrators have to create the policies for our data health. That's the most secure thing for our organization. How folks are entering in data, how folks are actually working through the data, where are they exporting it, all those different things matter, but we need to have clear policies and accountability for our data health, including the documentation and training and how to use those relevant fields for our organization. As we lead into having these shared real-time reporting and these weekly key performance indicator reviews. I'm a big believer in having these shared goals and shared team ideas. Everyone knows their number, as it says here, right? Like these are three really good areas for us to start at. Again, that 1%, where are we going to be able to start today? I like these three initially, right? Like it depends on the size of your organization, but like look over here on the left, giving revenue by tier. This is going to identify, you know, our major donors, our mid-level donors, our annual fund donors. How do we look? Are we too heavy at the top? Are we building a base of new donors for our organization? Again, these are three things that I would love to share across all of our teams, not just the fundraising, marketing, program, finance. Everyone comes together, and this is our goal. This is our North Star. This is where we want to grow our organization. The middle one is our average gift. I like seeing throughout the course of the year at a monthly basis of saying, hey, where are we getting larger revenue? Is it special events? Is it year end? Is it a direct mail campaign? All those things matter to be able to connect with everybody, to be able to drive that. And honestly, the one that gives me the biggest breath is the last one, is all about donor retention. What is the percentage to take folks from their first gift to their second to their third, and their third to the fourth? That matters. I always say this to organizations, staff retention equals donor retention. We need to be able to work together, but we need to start looking 3 years ahead where we are going, right? So how do we get folks from that first gift to that fourth gift? And again, I'm going to reference Nathan's presentation tomorrow. He's going to unlock, he did survey about 211 different organizations that came from Virtuous, and we provided their data, but he will show you the breakdown of how, the tools and the steps to be able to minimize that and expedite the opportunity to increase your retention rate for your organization. Everyone should have a clear view of their data and their core metrics across the team on a daily basis. That's the foundation of responsive maturity model, right? The data health. And now that we did that, and in order to succeed in the long run, it's all about unifying our teams to integrate our data. And one of the biggest barriers is breaking down is that lack of the centralized data. So let's move forward to be able to integrate everything together. And when data and software teams are not integrated, our departments are actually doing more work, and that lack of visibility is leading to uninformed insights, reduced team effectiveness, and disconnected donor experiences, right? Like, I had a database administrator when I was with the Boy Scouts. She spent hours downloading reports out of an event platform just to upload it into our regular CRM, right? Like how much time is lost out there to be able to focus on the real thing that we're doing. We're focused on the program, focused on curing whatever the nonprofit's mission is, right? And how many of us remember David Letterman, right? The top 10 list that he would always do, right? Like, I'm going to age myself just a little bit, but this is from our friend. She's actually a blogger. And I love to share with nonprofits. If you're going to look for technology, go to this G2 website and look at it. It's basically like the Yelp for restaurants for the technology space, both for-profit and nonprofit, right? So the top 10 reasons why we should integrate our software, the first one, like I said, is higher employee productivity. Right? Like we're going to be able to get our team together and see everything all at once, have a better data flow. We're going to reduce errors. The sixth one is one that hits me too, is having a 360-degree view of customer information. Knowing when you connect your volunteer data, your thank data, your marketing data, your fundraising data, all together, you can have a 360-degree view of what that customer is. I heard a story just recently. It was a food bank, and it was an organization where this individual gave a 6-7-figure gift. It was a high six-figure gift, and in that mindset, the CEO called the gentleman to say thank you so much. And in doing so, the wife picked up the phone and was like, "Oh, did you know he's actually downstairs packing food right now at your organization?" The volunteer system is not even connected to the donor system, so they didn't even know that they were registered. They were in the building and they were connected to the organization. Having a 360-degree view of who our customers are matters, and it's going to improve our efficiencies across our teams, be able to get there. And so how do we do this? We're going to increase through having those cross-team our KPIs. We're going to integrate our marketing and our donor data, taking an email, taking our mail, taking our text, the web visits, all that social media. The volunteer team is engaged. The direct response agency is engaged. The program team is engaged. Everyone is working together to be able to connect there. And the thing that 25 years ago, it wasn't available, but today it is having this integrated holistic system, right? Like you can see with us with Virtuous. Virtuous is at the center of the ecosystem in the nonprofit. And all of these technologies share into it, right? Like we're integrated either natively or through Zapier, whatever way you want to call it. But you have all that information together to create that cross-team goal, right? Integrated data is going to be able to push that organization forward further and further. And the step here that I actually love to nonprofits to take advantage of is this idea of generosity ops, right? Like, so being on the for-profit side here with Virtuous, a lot of for-profit organizations have it. It's called a revenue operations system. It's a department that everybody basically is all like enablement, right? It's teaching our sales team on how to train and how to talk. It's teaching our looking at our data and our insights and our strategies and where we're going as an organization. It's keeping us all focused. But it's basically having that cross-team data insight to be able to push everybody together. High-growth companies do this. They operate independently from all the different functions. And the primary role is to create that strategic alignment across the organization with a singular goal of driving revenue. And they're responsible for a host of different things, right? Collection of integration of data and software for reporting, delivering a centralized actionable insight and entire organization, as well as providing that enablement and training to the teams on messaging and tactics and everything else. Now, I know the staff and our full-time employee budgets are limited, right? With the great migration and the resignation and everything that's going out there. And I know ideally, yes, you want a full-time employee on team to do this generosity ops. But again, I'm going to go back to it. It's 1%. It's 1%. It's taking a little bit of everybody's time offhand and saying, hey, let's get everybody together. Let's get a senior leader from the marketing department, our donor development department, our program department. We come together on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, whatever it might be, and we collaborate. And rather than focus on the bigger buckets that we're working on in our own different departments, we all work for the organization, right? I love using the analogy here is like when back in the day, remember Finding Nemo and there's a flock of seagulls out there, right? Like all the seagulls are like mine, right? And the donor is the fish above it, right? Think the seagulls are each individual department in our organization. That fish is important to each one of the seagulls because it's their bread and butter, right? And everything else. But that fish sees it as a flock. They see it as a nonprofit organization. And that's the way we should operate. We should have our marketing team communicating across the board so that all the messaging matters for volunteerism, for donor information, for marketing, for finance. Everybody is collaborating, right? And that's how we're going to be able to grow generosity, to be able to take that RevOps team, but actually move it over here to generosity ops. Cool. It's a lot, right? We got through the first 2 steps. Now we're going to move into this idea of segmentation and personas. You know, now that we have the clean data, we have our aligned teams, like what are we going to be able to do next, right? In order to move forward in a more personalized approach, we need better ways to segment our donors into buckets based on their passions, their capacity, their stage, and their donor journey, all of the things, right? And building segments is just simply the process of dividing your donors into subgroups so that you can be more effective and personalize your outreach. Segmentation isn't a new concept, right? We do it. We do it on a regular basis. We do it on their recency frequency of monetary or RFM. We do this on their first-time donor. We do this on volunteer donor. We do this on male donor. All those different things. We already do the segmentation, but we should take it a little bit further, right? And for modern nonprofits, segmentation is a great way for a group to break down that range of themes and personas based on their giving patterns, their interests, their affinity, their stages, their digital behavior, their volunteer behavior, their buying power, all of those things. When you start breaking down into personas and deeper into those segmentation, you can start now building these fictional characters. And I think through, like I always about putting a name to an idea, right? So we got Katie, Jeremy, and Diane, right? Like Katie may be representing the volunteer individual in our organization, right? Jeremy might be a major donor persona. So now we can inherently start breaking down those personas based on their behavior, their demographic, their needs, their preferences. All of those things matter to be able to do it, right? And so segmentation tools are out there, right? Like, so we're going to be able to like automatic tagging, be able to do it dynamically in our system. How many times, like I said earlier, our database administrator is taking off tags off those first-time donor and then updating it to say mid-level donor, a major donor, or a sustaining donor, whatever you want to do. But you can start now dynamically tagging and changing inside your system utilizing effective technology, as well as focused on those 3 to 5 core personas based on behavior. So now let's start talking about integrating our marketing and our volunteer and our fundraising alignments to be able to connect on a regular basis. And by organizing our donors on personas, we are able to supercharge that traditional giving segmentation and affinity and behavior-based signal. And now we can be more tailored to have those meaningful connections with our supporters. Another great quote here is from our friend from Next After, Tim Kachuriak, who says, multi-channel donors, those who give both online and offline, are worth 3 times more than online only or offline only donors in their first year. Donor retention rate is 2 times higher. Let me unpack that. It's a lot, right? So what is online and offline? Online is a digital donor, offline is a mail donor, right? And what he's saying is when you put the 2 together, it's 300% more effective when you start communicating to our donors and when they give through multiple channels, right? Which is incredible. So I said earlier, we get so much email, we get so much mail, and we get so much text. Let's marry the 3 together and start connecting with our donors where they are. The research says touching our donors multiple channels, starting with email, is critical to increasing donor retention in our average gift. Multi-channel donors, again, are 3 times more important and become multi-channel donors. Nonprofits are going to see a 39% increase is what we're seeing when they just make a thank you phone call and be able to start connecting with individuals. That's from Penelope Burke, right? That was her study 10, 20 years ago, to be able to say, hey, let's communicate an effective way to be able to grow generosity. And a great opportunity here, and I love these ideas. We want to be multi-channel. It's hard, I know. There's a lot of systems out there, but when you start integrating our channels together, this is a great example of one of those dynamic campaigns to create that donor mapping series, right? So we've got Steven here. He started in a campaign. The first day he gets an email with a small little video in it, and guys, I tell you, short form video, authentic with your iPhone or whatever it might be in the woods, in the office, whatever it might be with a patient, all those things matter. And you can start integrating it into your technology as well as your CRM and your email and your communication. But it matters because it's connecting personally with the donors. The folks are actually more engaged with that. Then 5 days later, he's getting a phone call just to answer any of the questions that he might have had from that campaign. And then 2 weeks later, he's getting a text message. And then to close the loop out, that at the end of the month, he gets an appeal letter, all about the same story, right? All different channels. And we're trying to identify what matters to Stephen and how we'd be able to connect with him. And so that's the opportunity. We want to be able to start mapping out an integrated timing for each one of those points. You leverage these multi-channel campaigns for everything else separately, but let's start merging them together so that we all work collaboratively. The messaging across our channels are designed to complement, supplement, and on other channels, as well as symbiotic stories and content. Let's reinforce that consistent story in that messaging across the board. And our follow-up is driven by donors' timing and preferences. Give your donors the power to communicate their own channel and their own frequency preferences. That's the main idea I said earlier about listen. Let's survey. Let's have an idea of when they want to do it and when they want to communicate. Some of the tactics I love doing is pretend you're, how many of us donate to our own organization? Donate to other organizations, be a secret shopper, donate $5 to a whole host of different organizations and see how they communicate to you. Do you like how your organization is thanking you? That's a bold question, right? Like, are they connecting with us, the fundraiser, the nonprofit leader, effectively the way we want to be receive that messaging, right? So now pretend you're a donor and donate to another organization and map out that opportunity to see what those touch points are. The other opportunity out there is there's so much data today available to more than any other time in our history. It's just how are we going to be able to use it effectively, right? We always in the past have always looked at wealth as an indicator. We always use these major, wealth databases to be able to identify RFM and propensity to give and all those different components, and we prioritize that list. What if we take it another step further, right? Let's look at channel preference. Let's look at age. We can start now pulling marital status, their interest, their gender, their geo, all that information. There's a whole host of information even out there that's beyond this. It's all about consumer behavior. When I was in the space, I would look at our mid-level donors and it was like 1,000 to 999, right? And so we would say, hey, what's the consumer behavior on that group of people? And we identified that they shopped at Nordstrom and they drove Jeeps. What if we go to our non-donor database and look at the consumer behaviors of saying, hey, who shops at Nordstrom and who drives Jeeps? Let's communicate to them like our mid-level donors over here and see. And we saw an increase. We saw an increase of new donors by looking at data sets. So there's so much data out there. In a non-creepy way, utilize it effectively inside your database to be able to provide that insight for your organization. As well as there's opportunity to start looking at, demographics and location and finding out where folks live and connect it to our individual organization and be able to grow and focus in that where folks are inside our database. All right, guys. Whew. This is great, guys. This is great. Our fourth step, now that we've got through the first three, I know there's a lot to unpack here, is our dynamic campaigns. Let's click over here. So what if we've taken another step further, right? Traditionally, nonprofits do the same direct response messaging as I indicated earlier. We push the same message to every single person, and we're not having that two-way dialogue. Right. And at the end of the day, I'm a Marriott guy. I travel for a living. Our donors and our consumers at the end of the day. Right. I walked into my hotel room last night and on the television, it said, "Welcome, Mr. Tomalis," on the TV. Right. Amazon's listening to us on a regular basis. Google's all these things and all those technologies are around us. And so why can't we do the same thing with our own donors and have that two-way dialogue on a one-to-one basis? Right. Because and these are some opportunities to be able to do so. So you have some dynamic campaigns, some automatic journeys that you might consider. The first one is up here in the top left. Like I said, I'm a donor to a lot of organizations, but I'm a first-time donor to a water campaign, right? So now I'm going down a new donor journey welcome series. Highly recommend nonprofits all doing a new donor welcome series to reduce that risk of a high retention or a low retention rate. Courtney, down on the bottom left, she hasn't given in the last 13 months. She's a lie bunt. last year, but not this year, right? So now we got to reactivate her and get her engaged and be able to get her back on our supporting our organization. The bottom right one, we got Charlie. He went to our website. He wanted to learn about our organization. He downloaded an impact report. He's got to go through a customer journey. He's not going to be asked for a gift. We need to teach him an impact and tell him our story and let him know about who we are more as an organization. And then the last one is Jenna, right? Like, how many of us put something in a cart online, right? Like Target or Amazon or whatever it might be. And we get an email the next day that says, hey, did you forget something? Like, Jenna's an abandoned the donor page. She went onto the website to give to our organization. She's not ungenerous. She was just busy. She got sidetracked, right, with something else in her own household. So let's reactivate her and re-engage her. A dynamic campaign is important in the marketing automation. It's going to map out where our journeys are going to go. But I want to go back into it. We need to focus on that retention. We need to increase retention with our organizations and work with marketing and focus on those key stories to be able to get it. Bonus here is about inbound campaigns. Let's create this, inbound marketing. We have an inbound marketing team here, but inbound marketing is a tactic to attract potential donors and volunteers to your nonprofit using relevant and helpful content. The goal is to create content that's engaging our audience and then promoting it through content and social media and search engines and advocates and partners and everything else, right? Like, we want to create a tribe that is already passionate about our organization, our cause, and take it to that next level with a new group of potential donors that are focused on our cause. And honestly, it's just like major donor visits, right? And visiting with our constituents. We want to lead them down a path to say yes, right? Like, to create those opportunities to download the reports, to get engaged with who we are, to learn more about our organization. It's opportunity to start teaching and engaging them. I'll share with you, like, the other side here is focusing on SEO, which is search engine optimization, or influencers or social channels. That's awesome. You should be able to do that. That's a marketing opportunity. But when we start connecting those opportunities, that's when you're going to start leveraging content to be able to push your nonprofit to that next step. Whew, cool. All right. We're getting close to the end, gentlemen, or friends. The last step is our AI and our personalization. And frankly, I think AI right now is this great buzzword right now out there. And I don't know if a lot of nonprofits really understand the difference in what AI represents and what it means. But really, there's two key areas here. It's about traditional AI, which frankly, we're already used to, right? Like, it's a Netflix. Netflix is doing this right now, and we've been used to it, where Netflix was listening to what we are watching. And then when you finish a TV show, it's going to suggest another series based on your preferences, right? It's the same thing with wealth screening that we've always done in our organization, right? Like, because income producing assets hit X, we should now trigger a major gift officer to go visit with that potential prospect, right? We are already using the traditional AI. It's based on algorithms and opportunities and like if-then mindset. And then the predictive, which is this pre-trained, right? Generative pre-trained transformer is GPT. That's the opportunity where it's like the forward-thinking nonprofits are using to, accelerate your copywriting, you're testing your new messages, you're utilizing it, but it's basically those personalized journeys. You can go into GPT and say, tell me a story about the world in Scotland, and start utilizing that opportunity and be able to, it'll tell you the whole story. I love the idea of using GPT in our grant writing, our email copy, being able to go in there and say, hey, I have 150 characters. This is what I have. I need to be able to talk about our mission and our organization. I would copy it, but I would edit it. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be genuine. It needs to be in your voice, and be able to lean in forward to be able to get there. But lean into GPT, and we're already leaning into more of the stuff over here on the traditional side. As well, later on throughout the summit, there's going to be another couple more sessions all about AI. I recommend them. Dave Raley, we got a whole bunch of folks from the Fundraising AI Summit. There's a whole host of different sessions here at RNS that is going to lean in more about accelerated personalization utilizing AI. But the key thing here is start with that 1%, right? We want to stretch and be able to utilize and predict retention rates. The personal story, my wife and I are going on a trip. We're going to Scotland later in the year. And so she didn't really believe in GPT. She didn't believe in AI. She didn't believe in any of this stuff. And I said, let's just test it out and whatever. And we went into GPT the other day, and I said, hey, tell us where to go see in Scotland. Basically, we challenged her. And it came back, all her stuff, she hated it. It was the worst. She didn't like any of the stuff that it provided. I went in and said, listen, we're bougie. We're staying at this hotel. I don't want to take any public transportation. I want to stay here. I'm only here for 2 days. I want to stay at all these. GPT provided the best schedule for us for a 2-day trip, right? So it's all about the prompts. It's all about the activity. It's all how you connect, but just lean forward a little bit. Again, it's that 1% to be able to do that. The last step here is all about stretching to hire a data scientist to, focus on it. It's not many organizations are going to be fully mature to be able to get to that spot. I think that's going to be the top 5% of nonprofit size and revenue to be able to have a data scientist. But there's a lot of agencies and a lot of institutions, a lot of partners out there to help you look for those AI-ready partners to be able to move forward in that nonprofit and where your growth status is. Now, I got a couple things here. So if you want to learn more about the maturity model, here's a QR code. Again, the rise and fall of the QR code. We're able to help support you. There's an ebook. It's about 55 pages. It's fantastic. We also have here at Virtuous, we have 5 sessions that we just walked through, right? The maturity model. Each one of these, I did this for 45 minutes as a high-level overview of the entire program. We have a webinar series that's on demand on our website that you can go deeper and wider with our partners and learn more about each one of these individual steps on how you can be able to grow generosity for your nonprofit organization. But with that, I'm going to lean in a little bit more and just share with you, if you want to have an on-demand video or demo of Virtuous, we have this QR code as well. You can see how we're including this into our system and be able to grow generosity for you guys. And with that, I'm good.